Everybody come on, let's get down.
All right, we are live. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Biscuits and Gravy. I'm Lawrence Winterman.
And I'm Frederick Pogue, and on Saturdays on Biscuits and Gravy, you get bedhead, Fred. So, but you know what?
It.
Today is this is what's awesome, Lawrence. Today is also it's no kings, but we have our very own King of Funk in the studio. Ohio Funk, Cincinnati, Freekbass. Welcome, Freekbass.
So glad to be here, and thank you for having me on the show.
You're
welcome, I'm on my first cup right now, so if the brain's not fully working, just show me some grace. Yes.
That's all we can ask on Biscuits and Gravy, man.
Yes.
So, yeah, man, I've been a fan of your music for a little while. We have a mutual friend, Bob Seska.
Yeah.
He introduced me to you, and so thankful you come on the show. You kind of travel both in funk and political circles, man. Like, how did that kind of come about? You know, like, because I've seen you on other stuff.
Sure. Well, I mean, Bob specifically, as you know, Bob's also a bass player as well. So on back when the beautiful days of Twitter, you know, probably 5, 6, 7 years ago, Bob, and I think it was like Bob was tweeting something about Rush, I think. Yeah. And I think I like comment, you know, he's a huge Rush fan, as you know, and I am too. And so I think I just made a comment on his tweet, and then we kind of that's where kind of the conversation started going there too as well. So, you know, we started becoming friends because of Rush and bass music. And then obviously we shared a lot of the similar politics too as well. And, you know, that was probably 2015, 2016, you know, right when the craziness was getting started. And so that's kind of how that connection kind of happened. Yeah. And Bob, as you know, is just an incredible person. I've gotten to be friends. It's weird. Bob and I are like, I text Bob almost every single day, and I've never met Bob in person before. It's the weirdest thing. We've never met. We were going to meet to see the new he's a big superhero geek like I am. We were going to try to do the Superman premiere, this James Gunn one, but we just things couldn't line up. So one of these days we will meet, but we still haven't actually physically met yet. But I literally talk to him almost every day. Yeah.
Dude, that is awesome. And you're in good company, because Lawrence and I are both like superhero sci-fi stuff. My man Lawrence even has a Substack where he does sci-fi stuff.
Oh,
so I'm going to step out of the way and let him just kind of jump in, because I know he's gonna push me out as it is.
Well, I mean, so yeah, I'm a sci-fi writer freak, and you know, I've got a Substack where I do that. I love it. But I just want to point out to everybody, the music that you heard at the beginning of the show is by Freekbass. It's called Get Down. It is an amazing track that Freekbass has very generously let us use as our theme music for Biscuits and Gravy. And before we talk sci-fi freak, I want to ask about Bootsy. So you got your nickname as the new spiritual warrior of funk from Bootsy Collins himself.
Yeah, so I'll give you kind of the Cliff Notes version. So there's a gentleman by the name of Gary Mudbone Cooper. Everybody in the industry knows him as Mudbone. Mudbone's been on so many records. You know, well, he was Bootsy's original singer. He's almost every Parliament Funkadelic hit you'll hear his voice on. He was
Nice.
on he was on Pet Cemetery by the Ramones. He had his own group called Sly Fox. They had a huge song called "Let's Go All the Way." I don't know if you guys remember that song or not.
I
Oh
do.
yeah.
That was Mudbone. That was kind of his pop project he did. And so a few, probably, late 90s, early 2000s, he was wanting to do demo stuff. I was kind of starting to get my name around Cincinnati in terms of being a decent bass player. And so he reached out and started having me over and doing demos on some of his stuff. And one zap ahead a few years. He there's a label out of Japan called P Vine Records, which is a funk and soul label, really cool label. Actually, one of my releases actually just got on it a couple years ago, which is crazy. But they were doing a Jimi Hendrix tribute album by different funk artists, not like songs, not cover songs, but songs written about Jimi Hendrix. And so Mudbone was on a track with a guy named Michael Hampton, who, if you're in the P Funk circles, he's known as Kid Funkadelic. He's been with George Clinton for a long, long time. And they said, "Do you want to play bass on it?" And I was like, "Well, duh, of course, yes." So he's like, "Okay, cool." Well, and it was kind of went down like this too. He's like, "Okay, I'll pick you up on Thursday. We're going to go to Bootsy's. He's going to produce and engineer it, and I'll see you in a little bit." And I was like, it was like the cartoon, like wait, we're going where on Thursday? Like slow down a little bit. And he's like, "Yeah, Bootsy's going to produce and engineer it." And so he brought me out to Bootsy's kind of, you can almost call it a complex studio, home, whatever you want to call it, here in Cincinnati. Bootsy lives like 10 minutes from me. And, it was like he opened the door and he looked like he was about, I mean, Bootsy is tall, but he looked like about 10 feet tall to me. And, really, inviting grin on his face, came in, brought me into the studio. Um, and we started tracking, and we really hit it. I think he really liked the way I played. I mean, you always have to ask Bootsy himself, but I think one of the reasons why Bootsy and I connected right off the bat so quickly is the groove of the song kind of had this thing. It was like da 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 ba 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 ba. And that's literally all I played. I played pop, like a lot of bass players, I'm assuming, probably get around Bootsy and they just want to start showing off all their chops and like, "Hey, look how great I am," and all that stuff. I just kind of laid into the pocket, didn't do anything fancy. And so he was back engineering and producing, and he was starting to move his head around. Then I started plugging into all his effects. He's like, "Man," and I just met him, so I don't think he remembered my real name. So he's like, "Man, you got that freaky bass thing kind of going." And then as the day and the session went on, freaky bass thing became, "Hey freak, hey freak bass," and then it just kind of caught on. And then a couple weeks later, he emailed me. We started working together, and he's like, "Man, you should just go with that name." And so that's kind of how he gave me the name. That's how we started working together. So that's the very short version, but that's kind of how it all happened. Yeah.
Man, that is like Morpheus telling Neo that he's the chosen one. How did that feel? Like what was going through your head as all that was going down?
When I tell you the story, even still, it feels like I'm telling the story about somebody else. It like
Yeah.
feels very, very surreal to me too, as well. It's you almost kind of have a little bit of a like this sense of responsibility kind of thing going on, in a way. It's kind of
Yeah.
weird. But it's been, I mean, besides Bootsy, on top of working with him, he I don't know if you guys know who Bernie Worrell is, but Bernie, he was the keyboard player for Funkadelic. He's on all the Talking Heads hits. That's all. He's actually in Stop Making Sense. He's the keyboard player. He toured with almost as many people know him for his Talking Heads works as they do for P Funk. But all
Sure.
the big P Funk hits, he's an original Funkadelic with George. Anyway, and I don't use this word, I know people use this word a lot, but genius keyboard player and songwriter. Well, he connected me with Bernie, and Bernie stayed at my house for a week, taught me a bunch about songwriting. Then I started, I just started know, and then Mudbone himself is, like I told you, some of the people that he's worked with and how much knowledge I got from him. So it was like, I always say if I would have grown up in a different part of the country or the world, I'm sure I'd still be playing music, but I don't know for sure if I'd be playing specifically funk, and especially Ohio's got a very distinctive funk sound,
Sure.
and definitely not that style of funk.
Yeah, yeah. No, Cincinnati's kind of known for
Hmm.
the
Yeah.
Cincinnati funk
Yeah, I
sound,
mean, all the
right?
James Brown hits were, I don't know if your viewers don't know, almost every single James Brown hit was recorded here in Cincinnati at King Records, which is how Bootsy got discovered. Yeah.
Right, right. That was the Bootsy connection, right? Bootsy played for
Correct.
James Brown,
Yep.
and yeah,
Yep.
yeah, got to start there. Man,
Yep.
that is incredible. It's kind of amazing to think about, like, if you'd been born in a different place, if you'd lived a different place, that maybe Freekbass wouldn't exist, right? You'd still be
Yeah.
playing music, but it would
Sure.
be different.
Yeah.
Yeah, very
It,
cool.
it's super cool that like I love how some of the genre has even like funk and jazz and all that's gone international because you mentioned that you had a release on a Japanese label.
Yeah.
And that's I think how American like specific like because a lot of folks maybe not know is like soul funk all of that is American born and
Yep.
how it's gone international. Like what does that kind of feel like where you're like you go from being hey I'm doing a session with Bootsy Collins, I got the nickname Freekbass, which I've gotten a lot of nicknames in my time, they all involve big something but
Yeah. Right.
they
Right.
will never be that cool, right?
Oh,
Come on,
So
Big Coffee. Big Coffee's pretty cool.
yeah. There you go.
it's yeah, right. So, but how it's like, and now you're doing a record label for like in Japan, like how dope is that? Like have and you, like where are you like where are you seeing the funk scene now? Say where it was like back when Bootsy was playing with P Funk, and
Sure.
where it is today.
Well, the one thing I think that's really unique about funk is because it's never gone mainstream. I mean, yeah, I guess the closest you could say in the last few years is the Bruno Mars Uptown Funk hit, obviously. But
Yeah,
but it's never really, and so it's always been kind of semi had this underground cred about it. So it's never been kind of played out, in a way, I think. And it's not, people are starting to realize it's not it used to be like, oh, that music from the 70s or whatever, it's like
yeah,
it's pretty time. I mean, the thing that's wild when you go to a George Clinton concert, I mean, it's not like an oldies show. I mean, they're like kids that are like 17, 18, 19 years old. I mean, a good portion of I mean, you got some of the old school folks there too as well. But I mean, both George and Bootsy both have been really good about they're still like Bootsy just put out a new record with Buckethead just a few days ago. I mean, they're always pushing like still the ball forward. They're not just like, hey, let's go play the songs we wrote, 30, 40, 50 years ago and just kind of rock on those. Let's move the ball forward. And that for me as an artist, that's always been the thing. One of the big things I've learned from Bootsy is about not necessarily fully reinventing yourself, but always trying to keep forging forward with music. And I think that's how you're you have a career, any musician, as opposed to just like, moving forward like that too as well. And I think funk specifically kind of gears to that because it's not, yeah, yeah, there's groove and there's all that kind of stuff too as well. But there's also, it's like such a, it's really hard to pigeonhole it, I guess.
Yeah, man, I got to tell you, like, so I grew up in South Florida, this little Jewish kid growing up in South Florida, and my first exposure to funk was at everybody's bar mitzvahs back in like 1982, 1983.
Sure,
The song
sure.
that would get played would be Flashlight,
Of course, yeah. Well,
the
that's
part of,
Bernie. But I talked about Bernie before. That main line you hear in front, that dun 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 dun. That's Bernie playing that on keyboards.
I love
And
it.
and not to interrupt your story, but like no one at that time, like there were obviously synthesizers, but it was more like ELP and Rush, and it was more like like stuff on top. No one thought about like, hey, I mean, now it's commonplace. But he's like, hey, what if we played bass on this synthesizer? And and actually that's Bootsy playing drums on Flashlight, just a little FYI too.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, that's amazing. I can't tell
Yeah.
you how much that song means to me and
Yeah.
how it was like my introduction to funk. And it was just so amazing to think about, like at those parties, suddenly the DJ would play Flashlight and like all these little Jewish kids would suddenly be like, oh, what is this? I must dance.
Yeah.
I have to get out on the floor and dance. Um, so it's funny you talk about kind of the timelessness, right? Like that song has always been timeless to me. And it it does make me think of that time specifically, but also there's so much about funk that has evolved over the years. And you're kind of a model of that, right? Like you're kind of edging into electronica, or not edging into, like a lot of your more recent stuff
Yeah.
touches into dance and electronica. So can you talk to us a little bit about like that evolution for you?
Yeah, I mean that's always as I guess as fascinated as I've been with I guess musician funk, bass culture or whatever you want to call it. I've been just as enamored of the electronic DJ producer scene too as well. And I think there's so much overlap too there too as well. Another genre that's always kind of been, yeah, the EDM stuff obviously breaks mainstream sometimes, but it's kind of had that underground street cred, just kind of like
Sure.
funk does too as well. And so they feel, I mean, they almost feel kind of like they're under the same, it's a big umbrella, but kind of under the same, it's all groove based kind of stuff too as well. So, and manipulation of sound, like like just like Bernie did with Flashlight, so much of electronic dance music is manipulating sound with
Yep.
whatever you have. And so it just, to me, the two kind of work together just kind of naturally, and you mentioned Bandcamp before we actually went live. Like one of the first things I did on Bandcamp, I did this album called Concentrate, which was like straight kind of, it was my first really like diving deep into kind of electronic dance music, but obviously under that funk umbrella too as well, and that was released through Bandcamp as well about 10 years ago or so. So yeah, I mean, to me, it just feels like a natural, they all work together just kind of naturally. It doesn't feel forced in any kind of way.
Dig
Yeah,
it, man.
man. It,
I mean,
it,
think of
it,
that. Like, I mean, this is the big obvious one, but like Daft Punk. I mean, like when they came out with Random Access Memories, which is almost as a straight up funk record, but it still was fit under that same kind of umbrella of electronic dance music too at the same time.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it
Yeah.
seems natural, right? Because, the heavy bass lines, the things that make you want to actually get out and, shake your ass on the dance floor,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that's funk, that's dance.
When you mentioned about Flashlight too, I mean, you could go to those same parties now with kids too as well, and I guarantee you put that track on, even then it came out a long time ago, and you'd have the exact same result. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. No, it's amazing. It's a song from 1978 that sounds like it could have been made today,
yeah,
and that makes people want to get out and dance, as much then as now. It's incredible.
100%.
No, it's fascinating kind of how that, like, again, it's that cross-cultural touch, of funk and music. Like, as Lawrence talked about being, a Jewish kid in South Florida listening to Parliament, my kind of first exposure to, a funk sound was, my dad was a federal employee. He's from Macon, Mississippi. And we lived in Prince George County, Maryland, when he was working in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
He worked in the National Weather Service. So, like, we had all kinds of folks over. We had Black folks, Hispanic folks, Asian American folks. And I can remember I was like 4 or 5 years old. And I know it was James Brown because of that iconic kind of scream that he has.
Right,
And
right.
I want to say it was Get Up Off of That Thing.
Yeah,
And yeah, and it was like we were at and my dad was at the time throwing a house party. It's like, they had so this would be like early 80s, got the speakers out back, barbecue, the pool, and my dad was listening to, like, I remember the country music because he listened to country, but somebody threw on a James Brown record, and I just remember as a little kid, like, oh, what's this? Like, what?
Yeah.
What's this sound? And that's, I think, to Lawrence's point, that's the awesome thing about funk is you can put on Flashlight from 1978 or go all the way to Daft Punk to Random Access Memories, that there's just something about it that just make it almost like it's hypnotic. It's like a spell. It just makes you want to like move. And it's the appreciation that, I really have for funk music, right? Like, and I'm kind of wondering, like, for you, like, what was the moment that you're like for funk, like, and music, like, I'm doing this. Like, this is what I want to do with my life.
Well, it's so funny you brought that up because when you were telling your story about the James Brown story, I had a very similar story, different circumstance with my father, actually. So I was probably 4 or 5 years old, maybe 6. and I was just starting to play. I started off as a drummer before I went to bass, and I was just starting to play drums. And I remember we were at a hardware store. I remember the exact hardware store. It was like we were standing in front of the window. My dad was talking to one of the salesmen that lived there, and a guy walked by the store with a boom box, and he was blasting "More Bounce to the Ounce" by Zapp on there, which is another Ohio band, Dayton, Ohio.
Nice.
And I remember hearing, no, I didn't know, and it was my dad told me, years later, that's what the song was. But I remember hearing that tone, and it was just, which is also my first, not only just to funk, but also the first thing I was like, what made me enamored with bass, being a bass player too, because I was like, what is like that sound? I didn't know what it was. It was just like this, alien sound, it was just like pounding, and in a different kind of way. And that was my first time that it really that's where it got its claws into me for sure, even at that young age. And it was like almost like a quest for me to kind of find, even to today, I'm still trying to recreate that sound of that first. I mean, the zap, that zap feeling I heard when I heard that "More Bounce to the Ounce" for the very first time. Yeah.
Oh,
Man.
dude. I mean, as soon as you said that name, the songs just started playing in my head.
Oh yeah.
I could feel it in my chest. I was like, I'm thinking, when did I first hear that song? Like, I was trying to think back, and I was like, because it's just so iconic.
And timeless. We were talking about the thing with Flashlight. I mean, again, if we didn't know when it came out, if I like played this for you, like, hey, I got this new track you haven't heard before, you would have thought that I would have recorded it last week or whatever. It doesn't sound like this. It's time stamped. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
100%.
So, Freekbass, I wanted to talk for a minute about, we kind of alluded to the fact that Cincinnati's got its own sound, right? And that's been so influential on you. So you recorded an album that was like an homage to the Cincinnati sound, right? Called Cincinnati. And I was wondering if you could just kind of tell us about that experience. And, I mean, obviously you were trying to kind of honor the city and the sound that has influenced you so much. I know it's been, 10 years since that album dropped, but I'd love for you to talk about it for a minute.
Well, the most exciting for that record was that it was on this really, I don't know if you guys know this label, but it's a really cool label called Rope-A-Dope Records. And Rope-A-Dope, probably the most well-known band on their label is Snarky Puppy, who are just like an incredible group. Also DJ Logic, who I work with a little bit too as well. A lot of really cool, leans towards like the jazz side of funk, but that's kind of their thing. But I was always like a huge Rope-A-Dope fan. So Lewis, the guy, the label head, reached out and said, hey, why don't you do a record for us? And so that was my release on that label. So I was super excited about it. But it was that was a really fun record to make. It was my second record. There's a guy named Dwayne Lundy actually out of Lexington, Kentucky, which is about 75 miles south from Cincinnati.
Sure.
And so we had worked together before, and I told him, and when the Rope-A-Dope thing happened, we did the whole album there. I recorded with I don't know if, you can see it here. This person that's tattooed on my arm right here, his name's Bam. He's not with us anymore, but he was the drummer on that. Right, him and I got to not only be great musical friends, but we got to be really close friends. And he not to bring a bummer and everything, but he we toured all over the place together. He was actually Bootsy's drummer. He's a younger guy. He was actually, when he passed, he was just turning 30. And but he was kind of in that next gen. Bootsy went out on the road and introduced us to him, and him and I started touring in a blues band together. Then we started touring together. He toured in my band, and we made Cincinnati together. So he helped me write a lot of the songs on the record, and we got to be great friends. So there's so much kind of personal feelings about that record, and with him. And he was the type, not to go down the road with him too much, but he was the type of a lot of drummers are either really good pocket drummers, where they can play a pocket real good, or they're more kind of flashy fill type people. I mean, And he was the type of guy that could do both. He was like, could be like this, like he'd watch him and be like, whoa, how's he doing that? But he, at the same time, he still had tons of pockets. So him and I actually did a whole tour with just drums and bass. That was it, just the two of us. It was like,
Dude,
because we could fill up so, and it was so much fun. We went out with a group, electronic band called Particle, and did a whole tour with them. So there's all those memories from that. And the one song off that record that's really like, kind of, it's one of my bigger songs, like on all the streaming services and stuff, is a song called Milk Hunt, and it's this instrumental song that's on there. And there's a kind of certain way that I play bass. It's a little unique, where a lot of bass players call it double thumb technique, but I'm kind of doing this thing where I'm almost like mimicking actually a lot of my licks that I learned. Of course, I learned all Bootsy's bass licks, when I was growing up, but his brother Catfish, who I got to be really tight with, who was the guitar player in the James Brown band, who was like every bit as talented as Bootsy. He just, Bootsy had the star persona, but Catfish was just an incredible guitar player, played with the JBs and stuff. I learned all his guitar riffs, but I would start kind of mimicking them on bass. And so Milk Hunt is kind of a de facto homage to that,
Yeah.
the way that song, and that's one that seems to be every musician I meet, and they're like, well, how do you do that Milk Hunt song? That seems to be the one, that seems to kind of broken through a little bit. Yeah.
Amazing. I forgot Bootsy's brother's name was Catfish. I
Yeah.
love the story there that his mom looked at Bootsy one day and started calling him Bootsy, and he was like, "Why? Yeah, you just look like a Bootsy."
Yeah, exactly.
When your mom says it.
Yeah,
right, it's
that's
pretty
right.
much done at that point.
Exactly.
There's a show on Amazon. It's called Reacher, right? And part of the shtick in that show is like he comes to a town, and like in the first season, he says he's looking for he's following a blues musician, right? So like let's say Greyhound pulls in. I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I'm a funk freak. I'm like, where is the first place that I go for some Ohio, Cincinnati funk history? Like, where would you say, yo, you got to go here? You got to go check
Well, I would start, I mentioned King Records before. So King Records is just, and a lot to do with Bootsy, which is, again, was where all the James Brown hits were done. A bunch of bluegrass too. It wasn't just a funk and soul, a lot of bluegrass, which is really huge here as well in Cincinnati. But that is actually just got on the National Historic Register, so they can. And so the building is still there. You can see it right off the highway. It's actually got the plaque there and everything. They're working on turning it into a museum. It's gonna be almost like how Stax is in Memphis, kind of thing. So
Nice.
that would probably be just in terms of just to be like, hey, that it's almost like holy ground, you know what I mean, of the funk right there, because of what happened there, So that would probably be the first place I would direct you to. Yeah.
Dig it. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I know, Freekbass, you recently won the TikTok Artist of the Year, right? And
Yeah. So go ahead. I'm sorry. Yes.
no, go ahead.
No, yeah, so they have something called Live Fest, and it happens every year. It's getting ready to start, actually coming up soon, the next month or so. And the basically you become they through a bunch of different competitions and also exposure things and blah blah blah. You place in the top 20, 30, 10, etc. So in the United here, it's not here, that's right, it's my old set. We have our Halloween set up for my live streaming right now. It's in my old set right now.
Nice.
So in the United States last year, I placed in the top 10, and then worldwide top 30. So and because of that, and this was something I had no idea was even going to be a thing. The top 5 people, they threw up on Times Square billboard for a week right before Live
Yes.
Fest, that's even, I mean, again, another feel like I'm talking about someone else when that happened. So when that happened, it was weird because when that happened, I was in Los Angeles, and I was getting on my plane back to Cincinnati, and a stewardess came up to me, and they said, he said, my friend said they just saw you, and I didn't even know this I didn't know that this person, and then there's like, oh yeah, that you're on Times Square, and I was like, because of the time difference in LA and New York, it started showing at midnight in Times Square, so I took a literally 1 day flight, flew up to Times Square. I was like, who knows when this is ever going to happen again? So we went up there,
Right.
we met a videographer up there, did a bunch of videos, and it was on the NASDAQ, of course, which is the most iconic one, but it was on a bunch, like 4 or 5 all around Times Square. It was like very bizarre, and it would rotate every 5 minutes too for a week, so it was so weird. And the bass company I work with, which they're called Dingwall, they were I was standing there with my bass, so they were all happy because their bass obviously got a lot of eyes on it too.
Right.
So but that's kind of what led ultimately a few months later. There's a magazine called Cincinnati Magazine. They did an article about the Times Square thing, and then Cincinnati Magazine, because that came out, somebody saw the Cincinnati Magazine article, sent it to, I guess, the Tonight Show, and then I don't know if you heard this, about 2 weeks ago, Jimmy Fallon dressed up like Freekbass on the Tonight Show. So
Nice.
which is so bizarre. Like, I started having people, this was actually last 2 Mondays ago, I started having people DM me, and I was like, they're like, Jimmy Fallon's dressed up. I was like, I thought he was like wearing a boa or something and like dressed in crazy. Like, oh, okay, I get it. He's kind of looking like a crazy bass player. No, he actually like straight up showed the article. He's like, people say I look like Freak Bass, and he put on my exact outfit, bass, the Roots, who I've played actually a couple of music festivals with, started chanting Freak Bass. And yeah, it was the weirdest, very, very like pinch me crazy moment too as well. But it kind
Dude,
of all
that's
led back.
incredible.
It all started with the TikTok thing. I had the TikTok thing. It happened. The Cincinnati Magazine thing wouldn't happen, and that might have not got to his desk. So life is a trip. The way that the road that it goes down.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Wow.
Oh my God. That's amazing. And you said you're on the set right now for your live stream, and you do this every day, right? Or I think on a couple days you do it twice a day. Is that right?
Yeah, I do. I'm on TikTok every Sunday through Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific every night. On Tuesdays and Thursdays I do noon. Then I also I just started about a month and a half, 2 months ago on YouTube, and YouTube's like taken off way quicker than I thought it was going to. And so I'm
Nice.
doing YouTube on Wednesdays, noon and midnight. And YouTube's great because it's so international. At midnight for a lot of people, that's the middle of the day for them. And then the reason I'm a little bleary eyed this morning, I do Fridays at midnight, so I was on till about 3 a.m. Eastern time last night too as well. So but it's yeah, that's my whole. If you would have told me 2 years ago that I'd be live streaming on TikTok and YouTube, I'm like, what? Because I come from the touring musician world, and
Right.
but it's kind of taken me into a whole new place that I didn't think I'd be, and it's very exciting. So it's almost like putting a new like a different show or TV show. The big difference with live streaming which is cool, is I'm obviously playing all the time, but like when you're playing a live show, you're not talking to the audience through your microphone the whole time.
Right.
That's the
Right.
difference. So that I'm playing, but I'm also communicating with people at the same time. So I'm always saying that I'm gonna be the new Liberace of the bass playing world. I'm training to do that. Yes.
Dude, I
Nice.
love that. Man, you're so right on that. I mean, if you'd have told me 2 years ago I'd be doing a live stream,
Yeah.
called Biscuits and Gravy, first guest is Freekbass, I'd be like, what? Come on, man.
What a strange world we live in, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I take
Stranger
and
with
that's
every
what
day, it seems like.
Oh, and faster every day too. I mean,
God, yeah.
with a whole separate show, but I mean, in terms of especially my side of the stuff with them, and I'm sure your guys just as much, the whole AI thing, it's crazy how
Yeah.
fast it's going. I mean,
Yep.
it's not like weekly anymore, it's like daily,
Oh
it's like,
yeah.
like the changes are happening. I mean, Sora, I'm sure you guys have heard about Sora. I mean, that
Oh yeah.
just got released just a few days ago, and it's almost like it's been around for like a week ago seems like almost 2 years ago now on there. Like, oh yeah, that was last week. You know what I mean? It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're getting some fuck AI comments from the chat, and I'm
I
curious,
get
like as an artist, like I think, I'm a writer, and
Yeah,
so I'm concerned about my work being ingested. I'm
for
concerned
sure.
about it trying to mimic me. What is it like for you as a musician, like hearing music that gets produced by AI? Um, like, what do you think? What's going on?
Well, getting to what I do in terms of the live streaming space, I think that that's one area, at least for the next few years. I think we're safe there. I think, you know, I, I'm from the school, you definitely want to be able to play, like physically play or write or whatever it is your art that you do. So um it's not going away. But if you can use it as, I mean, I kind of almost think of it like I heard a podcaster say this the other day about AI. I listen to so many different, like I'm sure you guys do too, especially on the tech side of stuff. And if Andy Warhol was around today, Andy Warhol would use AI in a very unique way, but it would still be Andy Warhol. Like it
Hmm.
wouldn't be. So as long as you're able to use it as still have your soul in it, and as much as you can. I mean, believe me, it's a very scary thing for sure. Like, we none of us know where this conversation is going to be, 6 months, a year from now. It's,
Right.
it's a crazy thing. But at least for the time being, I think is like, again, the live streaming space is you can't, no matter what you can do in a 3 or 10 second video, live you have to play, you got to play or you got to talk like you guys are doing or whatever, that's, and or whatever the case may be. So I still think AI, I don't think at least anytime soon is going to create a Johnny Cash, George Clinton, Stevie Wonder,
Oh God, no.
you name the artist, at least in the music field type of thing, Stephen King as a writer, whatever. I don't think that's still gonna, I'm not worried that at least now that that's gonna happen, so yeah.
I think an interesting thing there is, and one thing I've noticed as a writer and a creative in general is, before, like 5 years ago, you would get hammered for like, oh, you can't make grammatical mistakes. Oh, you got to make sure this is good. This is good. Now, the thing that I've found over the past year is people say, oh, like I'd go back and say, oh man, I made these mistakes. I'm sorry, you guys. And they're like, no, that's how we know it's not AI.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Right. It's the
and to your
imperfection that proves that it's human.
100%. Yeah.
And I think to your point with the live stream, what I'm starting to see is like people, because I think human beings, we naturally just want authenticity. We
Mhm.
naturally
100%. Yeah.
want that genuine experience. And so I see a world where it's people that can play or can write, like you doing the live stream, people would gravitate to that more because they're like, I think even subconsciously, if they don't say it out loud, it's like, oh, that's real. Like that's a real guy playing that, and that's awesome. Versus with a computer, it may be like AI can maybe make it technically proficient, but the only language I know how to describe it, there's just no soul to it, man.
Right. Well, and I heard somebody recently, I can't remember. I watched it. It was a really good video. They were playing, I think it was September by Earth, Wind and Fire, and they were
Mm.
showing how they said,
Yes.
here's the beginning of the song and the tempo's like here, right? And then here's like the last minute and the tempo's like here, it's not where AI would just make the whole thing one tempo the whole time.
For
So
sure.
that alone, right? And that's, that energy level. And John Bonham from Led Zeppelin, totally different style of music, but like, there's a great, I don't know if you guys know who Rick Beato is. He's a really good big YouTuber. He does a lot of music stuff, but he took
Mm.
Bonham and Clyde Stubblefield from James Brown Band and quantized them. So basically, so they were like in perfect time the whole time, and it made the song sound totally different. Like he made it perfect, and the perfect was made it not sound like the reason why you love the song.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that element of it, yeah, I think that's where we don't, at least for the time being,
Mm.
we don't, we don't have to worry about that side of stuff, whether it be any kind of art form, in my opinion. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's that technical proficiency that is why funk and some of these things are timeless. Like, you look at Live and Loud in Dallas with James Brown, like with Little Royal, and you've got
Yeah.
you got two drummers, you got basically two bands just going, like,
Yeah.
and I always say the craziest thing about his lives at that point is just it sounds like he's got a marching band behind him,
Right.
and it's just
Right. Right.
it the scope of it is so like wow. Or like even Earth, Wind and Fire, you
Yeah.
talk about September. What bands? I mean, there's very few bands that have a horn section anymore, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's just, I think that yeah, while technology's like helped us and kind of advanced some other things, I think you can't replace that technical proficiency and those little imperfections that make it uniquely human. You know,
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. There's this great quote that I keep forgetting the woman's name who said it because I always want to attribute her, but it's basically like I want AI to figure out how to mow the lawn and do the dishes so that I have more time to paint and write and make
Yeah.
music. I don't want AI to paint and write and make music so I have
Right.
more time to mow the lawn and do the dishes.
Right.
Like we've got it wrong. We're not putting humans at the center of what technology should be doing. We're putting the machines at the center, which seems like completely wrong priorities as far as I'm concerned.
Right, right. And at least on the music and at least all the AI music I've heard so far, it's very soulless, like it does, yeah, it may sound like they may be playing the right notes and this, but like, and it may even have a good hook, but it doesn't, affect you. And it's not like, it just doesn't like hit you inside the same kind of way, and a lot of it is because of all the reasons you're probably talking about right there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to. Today's No King's Day. I have a sneaky suspicion that maybe we're all kind of politically aligned.
For sure.
I'm just wondering, what is your take on our current situation? I'd love to hear, you know, um, what it feels like to be a musician, to be an artist in this environment, and kind of see things happening in our country that are straight out of history books.
I mean, it's obviously, the obvious thing, it's very, very scary time in terms of all that kind of stuff, just because the uncertainty of everything that's happened over the last 10 years or so. So, me being from Cincinnati, Ohio's, it's weird because, Ohio voted for Obama twice,
Right.
yeah,
and voted for Bill Clinton twice,
Yep.
and then it voted for Trump twice, so it's very specifically growing up in Ohio and Cincinnati, it's been a crazy journey. So yeah, I try. It's really, really tough. I mean, I just try to, people like you and Bob and people like that, I kind of try to vicariously live through you guys right now, because it's just it can be too depressing, like, generally, just because of what's going on. But I mean, I'm a glasses half full guy.
Hmm.
I still feel the ebbs and, I mean, historically, I mean, it's the cliche of the pendulum swinging left and right and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
it's just taking a hard swing right now. But I have a feeling it's going to be doing, like, anybody that predicts what's going to happen in, 2028, I think, in terms of, especially on the Democratic side of stuff, I don't. Yeah, we know who the obvious contenders are probably going to be, but who knows? And and to me, that part of that's kind of exciting, like, as crazy stuffs are right now and depressing in a lot of ways.
Hmm.
That's these little semi exciting stuff, is because it's going to be, we're getting ready to get, because it's gonna, like, wasn't, I mean, yeah, so obviously 2008 when Obama got in, that was obviously, obviously that was Bush couldn't run again too. So it's kind of,
yeah,
we're getting, I have a feeling it's going to be that kind of vibe too as well. I mean, and I'm not saying who I'm for or not for, but like, when anybody says, like, like, say AOC, like, there's no way, if I'm not even saying she's going to run for president, but I'm saying, like,
right.
there's no way that she could run. I was like, Are you sure about that?
Right.
Yeah, you sure
You
about
never
that?
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, so, and whether it be her or someone else or whatever the case may be. So that's, I think, that's my glass half full. I think that hopefully we'll get, something that'll fix everything as much as it needs to be fixed. Yeah.
So I had a, back when I was in grad school, similar to what Lawrence just referenced, I had a conversation with a buddy of mine, and we were talking about the, what Lawrence referenced with the AI, with doing my dishes and doing the laundry. And for so long, we've had kind of this Protestant work ethic, and we even have this in our society where it's, you're defined by what you do as a job. Like that's your retirement, that's your income, that's your healthcare, everything. And so instead of being defined by the very human thing, which is creativity, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're defined, like we want to define ourselves by just menial work and toil versus creativity.
Yeah.
And you're in a unique position being a musician, like, and being at where you're at and how long you've done this. In what ways have, like, were you, like, let's say you come out as, like, let's say pro creativity, what positive impacts has music had on your life? Like, changed your thinking, changed, like, opened things for you that maybe you didn't have access to? Like, what ways has music, like, you said, okay, this is me because of music?
Well, I think it might be. I'm not going to get the quote right, but it was Miles Davis said something to along the lines of this, and this is how I feel, and probably 99% of musicians feel. But it's like it's literally the first thing you think of when you wake up till the last second you go to bed. So it engulfs your, like, yes, of course, I've got very close family, very close friends, all that kind of stuff, but it's on a constant, that's always here, even as I'm talking to you guys right now. I'm thinking, and you bring up any like reference to Earth, Wind and Fire, James Brown, or when you heard P-Funk for the first, I'm like, I'm living that memory with you the second you say that. You know what I mean?
For
I know
sure.
exactly what's going through your head. So I mean, for me, it's been obviously sanity more than anything else, so it really is. And I'm sure that's the way with anybody with whatever their artistic endeavor is. It's something that's there. So it's yeah, that's it. I mean, it's always there 100% of the time. And it's no matter what the subject is, how does it relate to music? And really quick, not to go off on separate thing, but when we were talking about politics stuff, I just got I did this thing last weekend, and there's a really big music store in the United States called Sweetwater Music. Most people, it's almost like the Amazon of music stores, but they actually have a physical
I'm
store.
in Fort Wayne, Indiana. I'm
That's
in
exactly
Sweetwater's
it. Yeah.
backyard.
If you ever get a chance, it's incredible. I mean, it's almost like like Google can't. It's huge. I mean, the
It's
music store is
amazing,
just
yeah.
one small little part, but they have this thing called Guitar Fest, which is kind of like a big music convention that I was there with one of the bass companies I work with.
Oh yeah,
They're
nice.
called Dingwall, and they're out of Canada, Saskatoon, Canada, who I'm going to go visit actually soon. Where actually my grandma's from originally, and but we started, it was mostly about music, but we talked a little bit about politics and mostly just about difference. And the main thing, it all kept going back to the healthcare thing. I don't
Mm-hmm.
care what side of the political aisle you're on. It is like archaic that we're even having this discussion right now. I mean,
Yep.
when we were talking about, they were like, to them, it was so weird to think that we still have to deal with that. You know what I mean? And it's like all the little things like, oh, you're going to be on a wait list and all that's all BS. It's all to scare people. Like if you're in Canada, if you're like sick, I mean, yeah, if you want to go and get some kind of cosmetic thing, you might have to wait a few months to do that, but you're going to have to probably do that here too. But anything like if you broke your arm or something, like you're not going to be in it, like they're not going to say, okay, we'll see you 2 months. I mean, you're going to the emergency room, they're taking care of it, and that's
Yep.
it. And done story. It's and no $5,000 bill or $2,000 or $10,000 bill, whatever. It's just crazy. And I hope that it feels like even on the other side of the aisle, it feels like that's starting to kind of, obviously with what's going on with the shutdown and stuff like that, it's really putting it front and center right now.
Yeah.
But I really hope, if nothing else, that's one area that I hope is really starting to kind of, doesn't matter where you're at in the country, whether you're in, deep Mississippi or New York City, everybody can that's one area where people can come together on that point.
Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. Like it's such a fundamental thing, and it's amazing to kind of look around the world and see, other developed countries that have gotten it right, and realize that like it's totally within our power to do it. We just haven't done it yet because our politics is so messed up with regard to what we're actually fighting about.
Yeah.
We're fighting over like who can use bathrooms instead of does every child deserve health care, and
Right, which is all that's distraction. 90% of that's just distraction,
total
to
distraction.
get clickbait headline stuff. We all know that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm a queer guy living in Fort Wayne, Indiana. I had lived out in Seattle for 30 years, and I recently
Oh,
moved
so
home.
you totally know Sweetwater then. You said Fort Wayne, Indiana. I was like, oh wow, yeah,
Yeah,
wow,
yeah, no,
yeah,
this is my hometown, but my whole family is here, but I lived out on the West Coast for most of my life up to this point. And it's weird, right? Being back here and kind of going from a place where I could just completely be out and be me to suddenly being in a place where, I got to be a little more careful about what t-shirt I'm wearing outside, for
right,
example.
right, right.
So yeah, I don't know. I feel like they are definitely trying to distract us so that we don't do the big things like, tax the billionaires and so that we can provide healthcare for everybody. Yeah, I love that, in addition to being, this musical genius, you're tapped into the world that, we actually live in. Because I know there are a lot of artists. I know a lot of people kind of in creative spaces who feel like they can't pay attention to like the actual physical world around them because it diminishes their connection to the creative. What do you feel that at all? Like, do you feel like if
I
I,
do. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I do. I mean,
yeah,
I do tune out, and not out of being apathetic.
right,
It's just because of being overwhelmed with the everything that we're talking about right now. I mean, I obviously I'm not. I'm very conscious of what's going on and how what's happening in the world, and all the um my newest, and this is not an endorsement of anything, but my newest find that I'm absolutely love is Apple News. And the reason why I love Apple News is because you can go through your feed and there's no comments, or it's just literally just the headlines of
hmm,
whatever you're reading right there. So I can, at the end of the day, once I'm done streaming, that's kind of almost like reading the morning newspaper, except I'm doing it at 2:30 in the morning is the difference. But it's like I'm scrolling through and just getting all what's happening in the world, just that, no opinion, just on what's happening in the world. So I'm very conscious of, but there is, I think every artist will tell you, especially now with as topsy turvy as everything is, it's hard to be in a fully creative space fully if you just like the burdensome of some of the craziness that's going on right now too as well. So um but that's why you guys are out there. That's right. Yeah.
that's what we're doing, man.
Yeah.
Dude, I totally understand that. Like,
Mm.
the other side of me is screenwriting, for
Yeah.
film and TV. And so it almost feels like you have to switch it sometimes, going from I'm talking about politics now to okay, let me put this, and I know Lawrence understands that being a sci-fi writer, you gotta make that switch. But
Yeah,
what's crazy is a lot of these issues that they've been the same for a long time. Like, not
Yeah.
much is like, that's the distraction, is like,
Yeah.
and I remember when I was organizing in East Tennessee, there was a guy I was, older head was, I was organizing with, and he said, you know, people, they expect things to be there, and because they don't remember what it was like before it came in. So like Tennessee Valley Authority, the rural healthcare clinics,
Yeah.
all these things that, you know, our previous generations built up for us and had
Yeah.
fought to get there. They just expect it to be there, and now they're starting to tear that down. So to your point, they're starting to see the effects in Arkansas and Mississippi when FEMA's not there, when they're not
Yeah.
delivering the aid that they need. They're seeing the effects when rural healthcare clinics close. It sucks that it's got to be that lesson, that it's got to
Yeah.
be, that hard kind of. But I mean, but a lot of ways for human beings, that's the only way they learn.
Yeah.
And all I can say is, like, for me, my hope is, like, I hope if we get through this, the damage is minimal, and then we pick a better path next time.
What do you
You know,
guys, what's your thoughts on, because this is way more your expertise than mine, but like, since we're kind of talking specifically about healthcare right now, what's your like, what seems like this weird turnaround with Marjorie Taylor Greene? What's like, what's going on right there? Is it because do you think it's because her constituents are actually like yeah, what's going on? We can't pay double for our, I mean, where do you think that's, or is it like a presidential possible? I mean, what do you, I mean, no one will know because we're not inside of her head, but it's just wild. And it feels like it centers a lot around the healthcare issue. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So I go back to this. So there's this famous audio. It was during the '08 election, and it was a guy from Gate City, right, which was not far from where I was in East Tennessee.
Yeah.
And they're calling him up, and he's voted in the Republican primary, and they ask him like if he's going to vote for McCain. And before they launch into the spiel, he goes, "Save your breath, son. I'm voting for the N-word."
Oh wow.
And so there's this interesting, and having organized in the South, like I've gone to, like there was a place called Dixieland Barbecue, right? And the guy was a Democrat, like old school Civil War kind of like
right.
Democrats. And he was going on and on and on about Obama, how much he loved him. And then there's a picture of George Wallace, like hanging up, right? Mm. So there's this kind of cognitive dissonance with folks in her district. I think with what Marjorie Taylor Greene is, what you're seeing there is this is oh, you're not going to endorse me for a Senate run in Georgia. I've gone as far as I can with you. The base is starting to leave Donald Trump because the mistake that they're making, Freak, is if you go for an authoritarian and fascist power grab, usually you get that through a popular uprising, and they blame an immigrant or gay folks or some other marginalized community.
Right.
For a little while, you have to make your supporters' life better. It doesn't last forever because, again, you're surrounded by crooks and people that are just fascism kind of just tends to get smaller and smaller and smaller with the top. But almost out of the gate, Donald Trump has made things objectively worse across the board, especially for his own people.
Yeah.
And so they're looking around like you have these stories about rural Georgia going, wait a minute, you guys are ice raiding here? But we need those folks. Like they're helping us in this area. They're helping us in planting and da-da-da. No, I thought you were going somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so, or wait a minute, you're doing tariffs on us, but we're farmers. And wait, it's going to Argentina?
Right.
Wait, you're closing my rural health? No. I wanted you to close Democrats' rural healthcare clinic, not ours.
Right.
So it's starting to hit them. And it's, or you got people living in tents in Mississippi or RV campers because they're like, a tornado wiped up my house and I still haven't got my FEMA aid.
Yeah.
So it's that economic reality that you like, either bacon is cheaper or it's not.
Right.
Either your paycheck has gone up or it's not. Yeah. And that reality is inescapable. And at that point, you're going to be like, yeah, I don't care what you have to say about trans kids in bathrooms or whatever the hell you're talking about. Like I'm suffering now really bad.
Yeah.
Help me, and if your leaders are going,
I think that's right. I think Frederick, you've got it right. And I think maybe we could even kind of distill it down to, I think she probably has some sense of what's in the Epstein files, right?
Oh, yeah.
And, obviously she's really aligned herself with that cause, and that has made her an enemy of Donald Trump. And so, she knows that she can't go further in MAGA the way that it is currently constituted. But she also knows, Trump is sick. Like, Trump is not doing well. There's pretty good evidence that he had a stroke, 6 or 7 or 8 weeks ago. And I think she looks at the healthcare piece and recognizes that is a wedge and a lever that she can use to differentiate herself from Trump and from the Republicans that will, like Frederick said, it will really resonate with her district, with her base there.
Yeah.
And so, a lot of people in the chat are kind of saying, the same, like she wants to keep her seat, like one of the things we've seen of all these people is once they get that seat, they never want to lose it.
Of course. Right.
And so, I think she's being an opportunist. She happens to be, she's being an opportunist for two things that I approve of right now, right? She wants to release the Epstein files, and she wants to make sure that, the Medicaid cuts don't happen. So I'm happy for that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, would I vote for her or would I trust her?
Right. Right. Right.
And if you look at this administration not through the lens of like the Nazi Party, and they're all unified. This is 1939 behind Herr Leader, Trump. If you look at it as, and I said this on the Mayday morning show that I was on with Julie Roginski and Michelle Kenny, I said this is the last days of a dictatorship, and they're like, "What are you talking about?" I said, the last days are when the leader is weak and his power starting to fade, and his generals or advisors are starting to grab power for themselves. That's what you're seeing with Russell Voigt and all the cuts to government and all the things he's trying to do. And you're starting to see that with Stephen Miller and the ICE and all this crackdown here, and here, because strategically it doesn't really make any sense. Like, what's the point of going into Chicago? It's from a logistical strategic power grab. Yeah. It's all spectacle. And even with cutting the government, that's something you say as a fascist, but for the Nazi Party, they said similar things. They got into power and they went to the people that were in the Weimar Republic and said, "Hey, come join the party and we'll keep giving you a paycheck and we'll keep giving you a pension." And a lot of folks were like, "Sure, I need a job. Things are bad."
Sure.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
You co-opt, because the government is your levers of power.
Right.
And they're cutting the very thing that's going to give them power. You've got, there's generals leaving, and you might say, well, that's dangerous, but all that institutional knowledge and all that personal loyalty and all those things that they've built over a career are going to leave with them. If Stephen Miller or any of these people are an indication, you can't just promote those people into, positions of power. It'd be like, it's like, "Dude, I want to play with you, Freekbass." It's like, "I play Guitar Hero. Can I get on stage?" It's like,
right.
Nope.
No, you can't.
Yeah.
I mean, and if I did, it'd be pretty apparent that I don't know what I'm doing, that I don't belong there. Because when the rubber meets the road, you can say we're gonna have the Insurrection Act. Okay, like a 4 million man army couldn't occupy this country. So how are you going to do it with a few hundred, like even 50,000 troops?
Yeah.
You couldn't even, you would have a hard time with 50,000 troops occupying Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And then what's the point for it? It's like, because now you see images of National Guard troops, sitting on the Lincoln Memorial and they're picking up trash, right? Or they're in Los Angeles and it's like, it looks scary, but they're in like 4 blocks in downtown LA. And the protests are going on everywhere else. And, so even with ICE, it's like, okay, you have $140 billion. Good luck getting people to work for you. Cause that takes administrative skill, that takes logistics, that takes training, that takes all this stuff. It's like, you're just handing a bunch of yahoos with sneakers pepper guns.
Right. Yeah.
Which is dangerous and horrible. Don't get me wrong. But
they're better at texting Nazi shit to each other than they are actually doing anything.
Yeah.
Hey, Freak, I want to. Man, it's the top of the hour. We told you we'd only keep you for 30 minutes, and we've kept you for a full hour.
I know, man.
No worries. Yeah.
It's been such an honor, and dude, we can't thank you enough. Fred, I think you and I are probably going to hang on for a couple of minutes and shoot the shit for a bit. But
yeah, we can. I mean, I'm probably just fangirl out over Freekbass.
No, appropriately. That's exactly what we're going to do. Freak, can you tell everybody where to find you, like your TikTok handle, where you're doing the live streams every day, and how they can kind of best support you?
For sure. Yes. So as I mentioned, well, first off, right off the bat, again, thank you guys so much for having me on too as well. I want to send a special set if Bob sees this now or later in the replay. Thank you, Bob Seska. Love you very much, as you know I do. So I'm on TikTok under Freekbass now, just to let you know, I know you see it in the chat, but the it's always a unique spelling. It's with two E's. So Freekbass. I always tell people that because people are like, I searched for you and I didn't see you because they spell it like the traditional spelling. So it's two E's, two S's. But that's at Freekbass. Literally, I'm that literally everywhere. My YouTube handle's at Freekbass. My TikTok handle, Instagram, I mean any socials, including here on Substack too as well. So I'm
Yep.
very new to Substack. It's a new world, but hope to keep diving more into there too. Maybe do some live streaming here as well. So yeah, I'm on TikTok every night, Sunday through Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern time, 6 p.m. Pacific. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, we do noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. And then on YouTube, I'm on both sides of the clock on Wednesday, noon Eastern and midnight. And then Friday night is kind of our big flagship show there, which is at midnight Eastern time too as well. The only day I have off is Saturdays, and that's because I'm a huge soccer nut. And
Nice.
we actually have a really, really good team in Cincinnati, FC Cincinnati. We're like, yeah. So I'm going to the game tonight. As a matter of fact, it's our final season game for the playoffs. So that's why I was like, I gotta have one day off. So I was like, all right, it'll be soccer game. So yeah. So besides that, I'm always live streaming all the time too as well. Yeah.
So
Amazing,
I know what I'm doing at 7 p.m. Mountain from now on.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Awesome. That's right. Oh, that's 2 hours. That's right. Yes. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
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 I'm like, okay, that's perfect.
Awesome. Yeah, it's great. I mean, I mean, it's very, as an artist, I will say for what you guys are doing, what I'm doing, it's like, is all the scary stuff that's happening in the world. It's still an exciting time, especially to be an independent, like, and I think, independent artists that there's so many new opportunities that weren't available to us even 5 years ago, really,
Yeah.
so this is a whole new world. So yeah, there's a lot of scary stuff involved with that, but there's also some very exciting and creative things happening that I think that I just love how niche everything is now too as well. No
Oh
matter
yeah.
what you're into, what style of music, what kind of art, what kind of science fiction writing, whatever the case, there's always, now you're able to find that audience for it that you might not have been able to find 10 years ago or whatever.
Dig it, man. I love it.
I love it. Yeah, folks on watching us here on Substack, go follow and subscribe to Freekbass if you can. Throw some cabbages away. Help support this
Maybe I'll
amazing
start,
artist.
like, how really quick before I jump off with you guys, how is I mean, obviously you guys make it your home here. I mean, is I know I get all the emails about them kind of push live streaming, and how is the live streaming space here on Substack?
It's
Good.
great. Honestly, I think that so I didn't live stream or anything until I joined Substack. Me and my best friend Dana, we do a show, like a morning news show every day at 10 a.m. Eastern.
Yeah.
And we have kind of fallen into this amazing community. We met Frederick, and it's just kind of seemed like one of those kismet moments, where you like meet the people you're supposed to meet, and suddenly you start doing the things you're supposed to do, and the next thing you know, I'm talking to you, man, and like it's incredible the way everything has worked out.
And is it algorithm, like with TikTok and YouTube both, like I don't know how the algorithm works here at Substack, but like, does it kind of start getting you in front of the people that probably should be seeing you? Does that make sense? Yeah.
So one of the tricks that Frederick taught me was you look at your feed and kind of you heart the things that you like, right? But then if you also start restacking them, which is like retweeting basically, the algorithm really starts to learn what you like, and you start to get kind of this broader spectrum of it serving you the things that you're really interested in, and there's such good little communities here. I'm sure that you're gonna stumble into some people here and form friendships and communities and collaborative networks.
For the most part, like the people on Substack are really it's really positive. Like you got the trolls and everything else, but it's not nearly like it is on other social media platforms. It's still very different, and like you do have your verticals where. But I think I think what's interesting is the art space and like the culture space, history, all that. And you've got some really talented folks on Substack. You'll be like, you'll find people that have like 300 subs, and you're just like, there's like, man, this is like such a gem. you know, to read the stuff that they're putting out or things that they're putting out, you know. So yeah, it's kind of it's growing.
Yeah.
You know, it's so, but that's the one thing I like about it is you could go into any of those verticals and you're like, holy, like, wow, this is dope. Like, and you can in some ways discover those folks much more easily. So like you talked about that niche kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like you can kind of find your, you know, your community.
Yeah. I know
Yeah.
Bandcamp. You mentioned Bandcamp at the beginning of the show. Bandcamp's got a great Substack that I get notice them all the time too. And
Right.
Duran followed me here on Substack, so I'm like, all right.
Oh my
so,
God, that's amazing. Are you
yes,
kidding?
yeah.
It's like, oh man, I was like, okay, dude, you gotta check that out.
Right. Talk
Yes.
about formative music, right? Like that. Oh my God. Yeah. The Duran
Oh,
Duran years.
most underrated bass player of all time, John Taylor. I mean, he's so good. Such a great
Nice.
bass player. Yeah.
Yes.
I love it.
Agreed.
Man, thank you so much. We are so
Dude,
honored to have you
yes.
here as our first guest. We're so honored that you're letting us use Get Down as our official theme music. Thanks a
Great.
million, man.
Oh, well, thanks for having me on, guys. Continued success to both of you, and let's do it again sometime when it makes sense for you. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you,
Absolutely.
Freak.
We would love that.
Appreciate you.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Lawrence. Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Get down.
Man, how fucking amazing was that?
Dude, I wasn't lying when I said I was gonna fangirl a little bit, man. It's like,
No, we got it. We got it. Like,
oh my God. I was like, dude, I have freaking loved Freekbass for a minute, and I found him through Bob Seska. Because Bob would play these old funk hits. And and so I was always like, dude, I keep playing the funk hits because I was friends with him and I was texting him at the time. And he says, oh, you're really gonna love who I'm gonna have on. And I was like, okay. And he had Freekbass on, and I went, what? There's still this in the world? There's still goodness in the world?
right.
And so like it's funny, like I have these weird sort of missions and quests in life, like that's probably the RPG kid in me.
Oh,
where
for sure. Yeah.
I put together, how I met Bob was I put together a panel. I was like the president of the College Democrats at ETSU when I was going through my graduate program. And I listened to the Bob and Chez show when he had Chez Pazienza on the time, and he passed away, about 8 years ago. And, I loved their show. And I was like, and Bob had talked about a panel he'd been on at I think it was Indiana University.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, how do I get that? How do I get to get them here? Right. And I was like, oh, I can use the school fund and I could put on an event. And I was like, so I literally made this event called, which wasn't prescient at all. It was, it's 2012, and it said social media's influence on politics and what it might mean.
I don't think
Twitter,
I don't think social media is going to impact politics at all, Frederick. That's crazy talk.
I didn't get the scope right because I was like, well, Obama used Twitter. This Twitter thing might be something in the future. Talk about understating it.
Right. That's like I predict that in the future, computers will be the size of a room, and there will only ever be 5 of them in the entire world because they will be so expensive.
I predict that people will enjoy coffee more in the future.
Right. Right.
There will be more than just Folgers. I mean, that's pretty much what it was. And so I got Bob on there, and then I was still following his podcast, and so then that's how I got introduced to Freekbass. And so when it was like when you suggested like let's do a show, Biscuits and Gravy, and I was like, all right, I can make the ask now. Like I can be like, Bob, can I talk to Freekbass about using his song? And what was so cool was like Lawrence and I, for the audience, is like, so Bob Seska put us in touch with Freekbass, I talked to him, and as you saw, super awesome guy. And I said, "Hey man, can we use your song Get Down? I really like that." And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "No problem." He says, and this is what floored me, just how humble the guy is. Like, I said, he's like, "What are you doing it for?" I was like, "Oh, it's a new podcast, like, thank you so much." He's like, well, I could be a guest on it sometime. I was like, "What?" Like,
how
do you want
about
to be
on
the
the very
first
first
guest?
show, my friend?
I was like, "Dude, yes." Like,
Yeah.
we were absolutely happy to have you as like the very first guest of Biscuits and Gravy.
Yeah, man, that was, he's so cool and he's so down to
Dude.
earth. And obviously, like he was saying, he thinks about music first thing in the morning, last thing at night. It's obviously his passion and his purpose. And, really incredible to, I felt a little silly bringing up Flashlight as being like my first introduction to funk, but like he loved it, like he got it, and like told us some of the tidbits about about the song, and I was just like, man, this is incredible. Like getting, it's like getting in touch with a piece of your past that you now get to see it and experience it in a different way, and his current stuff is incredible. Like I've been listening to a bunch of his stuff for the last week and a half, ever since we knew we were going to have him on, and the stuff that he's releasing now, it's like exactly in that EDM space that I love, and it is absolutely a mix of his like synthy P-funk roots brought into electronica and EDM. It's so good.
And seriously, for you guys, like, I know he gave you all the socials. There's an app called Bandcamp, and so you can download Bandcamp, and you can literally buy his music for like $1 for like for MPs, or you can support him. I support him, where it's just like you support him for like $60 a year, and you get it's an insane amount of music that this guy has made himself, and it's just it's one of those things you're just like, okay, and so especially for me,
Bandcamp into all of the chats. I'm logged into all of our chats across all the spaces. So I'm putting the Bandcamp in there. Please go support Freekbass. He, obviously, like, great artist. Anything we can do to support an artist like that, who is tuned in politically. Like,
yeah,
we talked about how sometimes it's hard as a creative to straddle those two worlds, but he knows what's going on. He's up to date and sees the madness around us, and gets that healthcare is one of the primary things that we need to be figuring out as a country, and that we're being distracted by all the other bullshit.
Well, and I know, like, we got the No Kings protest going on today, and we've got, and I know, like, for those of you who like tune into Blue Amp Media, you're switched on, and you're getting a lot of your information. You feel like you're not allowed to enjoy life, right? You're not allowed to enjoy music or culture or TV. That's not the case. Part of what fascism and authoritarian wants you to do is be afraid all the time. They want to take that joy away from you. That's one of the reasons, like, if you're going to a No Kings protest, or you watch some of the videos from there, you see people in ridiculous costumes. It's a form of protest. Letting yourself stay in touch with that part of your soul and your humanity is a form of protest.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, I mean, check out a live stream, like go to a museum, like see a movie, like all that stuff that, like, don't let them take that from you.
Right. You need to replenish your soul. You need to get in touch with your joy in whatever way you can, and not lose it, so that you have the power and the energy to continue to do all the things we need to do, and Dana and I had Stephanie Wilson, who's a historian, on the Daily Whatever show last week, and we talked about the Portland protests and the frog costumes, and how that is actually some of the most effective form of protest, because it absolutely subverts their narrative. Like, you can't legitimately look at at people dressed up as frogs and unicorns and dinosaurs protesting and believe the narrative that there's riots in Portland or that Portland is burning to the ground, right?
Mm-hmm.
And and Julie Roginski and Olga Lautman, teach a class on disinformation and misinformation. They also talked about how, if you're going to the protest, please be careful. Please think really strategically about, how you're dressing and what you're looking like. And it's what their recommendation is: either go full America, red, white, and blue, American flag. Julie even said this thing like, if you're Christian and you feel compelled to do so, bring a Bible. Obviously, if you're not Christian or if you don't, kind of touch that faith, don't bring a Bible, just to do that. But go for the ridiculous, right? Go for the frog costume or something really silly, because then the images, if anything adverse happens, which, knock on wood, pray to God it doesn't, but then the images will be people beating up on people waving American flags, right? Or people holding the Bible, or people dressed in frog costumes. And that is a way for us to own the narrative, God forbid, if something negative happens at these protests. So yeah, but your point, your thesis that you just presented, my cat is trying to come here, baby, is like, keep in touch with joy, right?
Yeah.
And talking to Freekbass absolutely did that for me today. Seattle Mariners won their game last night. That absolutely did it for me last night. I saw some people commenting on the game and kind of, the general gist was sort of like, oh, who cares about postseason baseball? Who cares about the World Series when all this is going on? I'm kind of like, no, man, like
Yeah,
we
you
need
got
to keep in
Yeah.
touch with the things that make us happy,
Yeah. Because there will always look. I think the trap is, and this is with life and anything, is like, you see this in kind of movies and everything else where it's like, it's like the happy couple meet, it's like la la la, happily ever after. Like there's some moment in existence where you get to, oh, everything's going to be amazing from here. And that's just not the case, right? It's the same thing with democracy is, or working out, or, a business or parenting or whatever, right? In your life, it's an ongoing thing. It's, and that's okay. Democracy is it's a lifelong obligation.
right?
We all have this as a citizen, and that's okay. It doesn't mean like there, and just like everything else, there's going to be times it requires more attention, and there's going to be times it requires a little bit less, but it always requires at least a minimum effort.
Yeah.
And in that, you have to, Freekbass said it himself, even as a creative, right? His Saturday is like, okay, that's my day off. That's my soccer thing. That's my recharge time.
Yeah.
You guys have your own recharge time, like if it's Seattle Mariners, go for it, man. If it's, going to the coffee shop and reading a book and that's your recharge time, or sitting or going for a hike, or whatever it is, find it and don't feel guilty for taking it.
Yeah.
Because this is just like, you can't live in a gym. You can't live at your office. You can't just live to work. You can't just live to stress. You've got to have that balance. You've got to have those things. So make sure you're when they say taking care of yourself, that's what they mean. Make sure you're doing that.
Yeah. So I'm going to go to, I'm taking my mom to the No King's Day protests here. I know that there are folks, in our audience who can't do that for whatever reason. You've talked about it a lot before, Frederick, that, maybe you're caretaking for somebody, or maybe you've got, a personal injury that doesn't allow you to, stand up and walk around for long periods of time, like would be required. Mm-hmm. I think it's important to note that, like, do the things that you feel like you can do, that, you know, maybe mentally you're not in a place where you can go do that today, right? But there are things you can do, and every little thing will help.
Yep.
You had some good suggestions the other day. I was wondering if you could kind of mention those again to people in ways that they could, you know, support that in it, you know, not by going and protesting, but by doing other stuff.
Sure. I mean, there's all kinds of things you can do, right? You got to remember, you know, like democracy and a healthy society is about being really active in your community in what ways you can, right? You know, donations is obviously an easy one, but that's, you know, some people can. It's like, okay, you can donate your time. It's, you know, and even small things is like, you know, there's like, say there's programs where you can go sit with you know, dogs at shelters, right?
Yeah.
To give them comfort, especially ones that are older. You say, well, what's that got to do with like democracy? It's got everything to do with democracy, because if that's you being engaged with your community, that's what it is.
Yeah.
There other things are like, you know, hey, are you great with kids? You know, maybe your grandma and you know, your kids have moved out and, you know, maybe they're in another state or they're doing their own thing. And you can volunteer for local civic organizations and say, you know, hey, I can help run like a little daycare for this meeting, so parents have something to drop their kids off, because a lot of these meetings take places in schools, right?
Yeah.
You know, and so the parents don't have to like worry about their kids while they're in a meeting for an hour or two, you know, and then you can watch the kids, or you can, you know, like bake and bring something. You could, you know, you can like, there's always things that need doing. You know, you can find a lot of that on like community forums on social media, you know, and it could just, and you could, I guarantee you, if you reach out to some of them, say, hey, I can't protest, I can't do this, but here's what I can do. How can I help?
Yeah.
And you'll find somebody that will say, oh, well, yeah, we'd love to have you with this. Like, you know, hey, can you, you know, like, can you sit at a table, like, you know, at the, you know, in the meeting, like, oh, I'm in a wheelchair, what can I do? It's like, well, there's a meeting, you can sit at the table and hand out flyers and, you know, like, you know, take names, you know. Maybe you can work from home. You only can work from home, but you're an awesome writer, or you're like my friend Lawrence and you have graphic design skills, and you can say, hey, you know, I saw your newsletter, it's kind of basic, I can help make it better, you know, with like graphic design.
Right.
Like, think about what you're good at and what you're passionate about, and then offer that to civic or like volunteer organizations. I guarantee one will take you up on it.
Yeah. You know? And here's one that I think we don't mention enough, right? Is there's a local Democratic Party wherever you live. Even if you live in the reddest state, there is at least some organization that probably needs your help, especially if you're in a red state.
Oh God, yeah.
You know, and look, I will tell you, I know that we all have conflicted feelings about the National Democrats. And I will tell you that going and being a member at your local Democratic Party, like it's gonna be frustrating. There are gonna be some people there who, you know, they've got one specific idea that they really want to harp on, but it is about showing up and being there to make sure that your voice gets heard by the local party, and that you can vote on things that come up at the party meetings that are actually pretty fundamental to decisions being made in your precinct or your legislative district or your county, however your local party is organized. And the other thing is, especially if you are in a red or purple place, they probably need precinct committee officers. And precinct committee officers are literally the heart, the beating heart and the spine of the Democratic Party in the states, in the counties, because these are the people who literally go knock door to door when an election is coming up. They're the people who host the candidates and walk them around, introducing them to people, and, you know, actually kind of collect the voter roll information that is so crucial into actually turning people out on election day. So if you can go be a part of your local Democratic Party, will it be frustrating? Yes. Will you meet some crazy people? Sure. You know, is it sometimes thankless work? Yes, but it is worth it. And you will absolutely meet some incredible, amazing people. You will probably make new friends. You will absolutely find other people that you can vent with about all the bullshit that is currently happening. And you can make a real difference in your local community. And when it comes time to turn out for elections, you can at least feel like I've got my little corner of the world figured, right? Like my block is going to turn out because I've been talking to my neighbors for 3 months or 6 months or whatever it is.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Yeah, 100%, man. So, well, first show in the books.
First show, man. Tell the people about Biscuits and Gravy, Fred. What are we doing?
So, Biscuits and Gravy was kind of the brainchild of, myself and Lawrence Winterman, and it's, as you can tell by the bedhead, it's kind of got that vibe of culture and politics where, if you've ever been out late when you were in your younger years and you were just like, maybe just hit it a little too hard and you're like, man, I just need something, dude. And you find yourself in a diner at 4 or 5 in the morning and you're just chowing down on some biscuits and gravy and coffee, black coffee that's got a little cigarette ash in it.
Black coffee, cigarette, right? I mean, that's literally why our logo is what it is. Big old mess of biscuits and gravy with some black coffee and an ashtray next to it.
Yeah, it's like it's like and it's that kind of conversation where you find yourself, you're like, wow, that was better than I thought it was, man. Mm-hmm. You just kind of start talking. And it's for Saturday mornings. That's what you're gonna find with Biscuits and Gravy. Is that kind of that's why Freekbass are that's the vibe, man.
Yeah, Freekbass is the vibe. We are so grateful again to him letting us use Get Down as our theme music and for being here as our first guest. And yeah, like this is kind of, we want to talk music, we want to talk art, we want to talk, culture, but we want to talk politics too in the context of all of those things. And we're hoping to have more great conversations and more, kind of things that make you laugh out loud and deep moments that make you really think. So yeah, every Saturday, 9 a.m. Eastern, knowing us, it's probably going to be like 90 minutes.
Probably
every time,
yeah,
we both like
we say an hour, but it's probably going to be like 90 minutes, it's like, because we'll end up talking about something we could probably talk for. Well, we have talked for like 24 hours.
Yeah, we have literally done that before. That's not this time. That's not the goal of this, but good hour, 90 minutes every Saturday morning of some culture stuff and some jokes and some laughs and some political stuff. And so we hope you'll come back and join us next week. And we're really grateful to everybody being here this time to help kick us off. Thank you so
100%.
much.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, we're going to listen to some Freekbass on the way out.